Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective. We have another fantastic show that I have planned, but we all know what happens to plans. So, as it is already, Brandy, I have not seen her yet, but hopefully she'll join us shortly. If not, we will carry on as per normal, I guess.
I think you're developing that old habit of fading back on your microphone
Ooh,
when you're introducing the microphone.
Raj, I will be more aware.
Well, I know you're aware of it, just like,
I'll be more aware of it now.
even more aware.
You know what it is? It's the fact that I have the mic down, so when I sit up straight to speak, when I go up, I
Oh,
lose it.
well, that's when you're like doing your flair. I did notice that your introductions are getting more flary.
There is more flair. I like it
Have
though.
you been going to some sort of acting class or something like that? Did someone encourage you to get your inner Italian on, or what's going on?
Well, I figured since we were talking to an actor the other day, I should just try to like elevate the game a little bit. Maybe add in a little Hamlet and like to be.
I
not
do like
be.
elevating the hand motion, but you could elevate closer to the microphone right from the get go. That'd be
I
awesome
could
as well.
elevate closer to the microphone. And you know what else we could do? We could like the show. We could subscribe on and we could hit the notification bell so that you can hear whether or not I am close enough to the microphone for
Oh,
shots
you
like
are
that.
now.
I
Congrats.
am now. There we go. We have a couple comments right off the bat. Jassa, good morning. Good to see you. He was in before I even started.
Dude,
Like,
he was in my live IG chat telling me that he'd be seeing me over here on the collective. So
dang,
Jassa is on it. He's
he's
on the
on it.
program.
Yep. Daniel, afternoon. Good to see you.
Same.
Winter Storm, good morning. Good
Same,
morning.
same.
Winter Storm says, Chance never knows what to do with his hands. What
That's
do I do
true.
with my
Unless
hands?
he is an Andean condor.
And so to the point.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had time to Googs it. I haven't.
Here's the thing. I was not referencing Quetzalcoatl, the god, the Aztec god. But I was referring to the Quetzalcoatlus, which is the largest pterosaur to ever be found. So it is a giant dinosaur bird.
Oh, so you weren't referring to anything at all in respect to the conversation.
I was 100%.
What were you referring to?
Well, you were saying soaring like a
Andean
condor,
condor
an
that
Andean
exists
condor.
right now. Yeah.
The Quetzalcoatlus existed, and it was first found down in South America, which is why it has the name Quetzalcoatlus, because the original founders.
But it was a dinosaur, right?
It was a dinosaur, yes.
So it had nothing to do with the bird I was talking about.
No, but it was a bigger
Okay.
bird. It was a bigger
so
bird.
you were referring to something that was bird and South America. Congratulations.
Yeah, and that was bigger than the one that you had picked.
Which has no relevance at all.
I think it has relevance.
What would have been relevant, though, if you would have Googs the name of the Andean condor and come in with that heat. Now, that would have been impressive.
Oh, if I threw none Latin, that would be impressive.
Straight up. Hit me with that genus, not your genius, because we've already established that you didn't really do a good job on that one, did you?
Yeah, that is pretty established. It's nice when you come out of your lives in skirmish mode and you just jump right into it.
I know, dude. I can't help it. I can't even help it. I've said it before. I can't help it.
It's all good. I like it.
And it's only because you recognize it and you call me out on it that I may even think about slowing it down.
Oh, no.
Or speeding it up.
Speeding it up. That's definitely the way. You can't ramp upwards. Never bring it down.
I mean, the game we're playing, good. I love this game.
There you go. There we are. We're in. Daniel says, God, my connection is crap. I guess it's part of the game when walking in the woods. I would imagine so. Yeah, if you're in the woods, probably. Not a great spot for it. Patrick says, happy Saturday, all.
Yeah, but
Saturday to you, Patrick. Good to see. So I have a topic that we're going to go into, and I haven't heard anything from our probable guest. So we'll just carry on. We shall proceed ahead. So, any thoughts, actually, before I jump into the topic? Anything off the top of your head that
I think that we should proceed ahead because my thoughts are still skirmishy. So let's do some good for the internet instead of me amusing me.
Okay. Well, Winter Storm also says I'm watching from the shower after a walk. That is not the image I needed to see. But thanks, Winter Storm.
It works for me. It's
appreciate
good.
It. You like it?
Actually, right, cool. when I picture the shower, actually Satch knows because Satch has been to our house, of course, on the weekend. and we're just chirping about things and how we designed the house and etc. I said, well, we did pay attention to some of the details, like as an example, in our walk-in shower up in the master bedroom. As you walk in, stand-up shower, it's all glass with kind of river rock sort of floor and tile, whatever.
Nice.
So you step in there, and as the shower is hitting you in the back of the melon, as you look forward through the glass stand-up shower, you can see through a window that just pushes you straight out to the mountains. Like it's just this epic view of the mountains, and that window didn't exist in the original plan. But as soon as you start
Mm,
thinking about it, it's like, yeah, gotta get a window there. But you know what? Those kind of, let's put a window there. Do you know that is not free? And
not at all.
the decisions that we made had cost at the time, and we were scratching our head as to, is that worth the price? But of course it is now. 10 years on, every time we enjoy that view, 100% it's
Yeah.
worth the price. But at the time, you can't see what you're about to see. So you've got to have faith in the fact that my visualization is worth the amount that I'm about to pay, which is kind of like a parallel to life, I suppose.
It's all about the investment, right? How much are
Mm.
you going to put? How much are you willing to sacrifice now in order for the image that is in your head to be real in the future? I think that is it's a very good allegory for life.
Yeah, and the sacrifice, by the way, is only a sacrifice if you can't afford to pay it. You know
I
what I
think it's still
mean? Like,
sacrifice.
I think that sacrifice requires a, a a cost that stings. That's sacrifice, man. Because it ain't sacrifice if you're just going out and doing your thing and there's no cost. If you're a gajillionaire and someone says it's going to cost $600 to put that window in that corner there, are you okay with that? $600.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it's not even right. So it's
pocket
not part of
change.
the. There's no sacrifice there.
Yeah,
And so
that is a good point.
sacrifice, there has to be cost, and the cost has to be impactful. And whether that's dollar or whether that's sweat, blood, and tears, whatever, there has to be cost in order to equate to sacrifice.
It makes a lot of sense too because you have to, if physically, if it doesn't take much to do something, it's not really a sacrifice, regardless of time or um, sweat, blood, and tears, as you said. But I think a lot of us separate monetary cost as a sacrifice as well.
Mhm.
For that, because we were talking in the green room a couple days ago about me going to Europe and like my whole family wants to go, and you were like, "Oh well, you know how much that costs?" And I was like, "A lot." And you put a dollar amount on it, but it that type of cost is a large investment for the future, which
It
is to
is.
be,
It is.
more worldly, have more experience, have more things you can draw from, but not just for yourself, for your family, and everyone else around you.
Yeah, it is. Now, so let's do some interesting sub math, some subroutine math. So let's pretend for a moment that a vacation for your family costs you 20K, we'll say.
Yeah.
And so that's 4 good vacations, you know?
Yeah.
5K can get you to a lot of places on a good vacation with your family. I mean, it's not gonna be magnificent, and
No,
it's
but it'll be
certainly
good.
not gonna be in Europe.
Yeah.
Get out of Canada for sure to another country that's cheap, and now you've got 4 vacations. So what you're then talking about is you're willing to pay a sacrifice to go have those experiences. But once you start understanding the total cost of the sacrifice, now you
Mhm.
can start reallocating total cost to sub routines or submissions or sub things that will, when compiled or put together, will present a better outcome or a more magnificent life lesson than just a one-time trip to Europe. So there's always going to be cost, there's always going to be
Yeah.
sacrifice, but more importantly, you've got to understand what you're sacrificing for.
Mm. Not only that, but the cost in depth, because the sacrifice, the why for a sacrifice is definitely important to have. But I think also on top of that is the concept of sacrificing other sacrifices in order to achieve a goal or a mission or something like that, because you have to in a similar manner, I'm thinking militarily wise. It's actually my mind goes back to World War One for some reason, but I push a battalion into a combat zone and they get wiped out. Well, I can't use that battalion for anything else. But if I just leave them in defensive, then I can actually pull pieces from them and move them around and do all kinds of other things. Kind of half-assed, if you know what I mean. So there's at least in my mind, there's a little bit of a back and forth between, do I put all of my eggs in one basket for one massive experience or one large assault, or do I utilize it for many experiences of a not lesser value, but of a different value interpretation?
Well, since we're talking about military history, and I'll try to keep in theme with what you're proposing, let's talk about your Europe trip. Is called the Charge of the Light Brigade.
Cool.
Where some dude got it in his moronic head that he knew how to fight a battle and just basically fed all of his men into cannon fire, machine gun fire, and the hell of a frontal assault so poorly conceived. So that's the big European vacation. And now you're that guy. You're the guy who totally blew it because you only had one opportunity. And now you're known for the rest of time as the idiot who did that, the Lord idiot. And so you could take all of those resources, all of those men, we'll call it, and now you can take those 600 and we'll break it down into 150 man size, 4 units that you can now do more things with. And let's say you're still a village idiot lord who thinks that a frontal assault against cannons is a good idea. Well, at least if you're quote unquote only going to kill 150 men, maybe as the idiot lord, you'll learn something in the moment. And then hopefully on the next 3 quote unquote tries, you get your silly head together and maybe make an impressive performance on the battlefield so that not quite as many men die and you can turn the tide of the battle in a more positive way than the moronic example provided throughout history by that lord as the classic case of never be that dude. So you don't want to be that dad where you put all of your 600 men into one basket, make a random play and hope that it all plays out for the best. Historically later, generations later, did you ever hear that guy called Chance Burroughs and his family?
He went to Europe for some reason.
Went to Europe,
Silly.
totally botched it.
Yeah.
And so, you can do this thing a whole bunch of different ways. And really, at the end of the day, I suppose what you've got to think is, what is the mission? What is the battle that you're facing? What is the intent that you're trying to provide for your family or for yourself? And it's not just what the mission is. It's also how you're viewed as a leader for the mission or the submissions. So I'm speaking about the moronic lord who set all of that frontal assault up. By the way, he's now the classic example of you're an idiot. You don't want to be that. True. And so that wasn't his mission, was to be viewed as an idiot, nor should it ever be anyone's mission. But that's what happens when it's poorly thought out. And so that you don't want that as your historical representation of who you were. You got to learn your lessons by building up in small campaigns. Small campaigns is where you learn your lessons. And just like you, small family vacations is where you learn your lesson, rather than hoping and dreaming and then making your one big trigger pull. And now there's horses falling down all around you. You know what I mean?
It's the funny part about this all is that it's such a clean allegory. That's what blows my mind. how equal these things are. But because in history there have been lots of examples of that working. Right?
For sure.
The idiot does something crazy and somehow his men win the day.
But maybe by luck.
Maybe
by happenstance.
Sure. Sometimes luck happens.
Maybe they were a wizard.
Perhaps.
Maybe they got lucky.
Maybe I am a wizard.
Maybe. Lots of maybes. Yeah, but history will prove out
that
an ill-conceived plan by an idiot is not a good way to play the game.
Yep, 100%. And I love the fact that you broke down into, how you learn those lessons is in small campaigns when you're taking on where your mistakes are not that critical. And I really wanted to kind of grip onto that point is the fact that you're if you're making small corrections, then if they go wrong, it's not a big deal. Like it's not a like, oh, well, whatever. But if you're making massive corrections and you're trying to all of a sudden charge a frontal assault and then halfway through go, oh, this is not a good idea. Maybe I should turn my men around. That's a massive correction that's going to end up bad anyway because your men have to come back and they're going to get shot at the whole way. But in decision making, if you're talking about a large sacrifice and you want to, I'm really going to make this thing work and I'm going to go to Europe and I'm going to take my kids and it's going to be this big thing. And we get there and the hotel's canceled. Now we're spending more money, or maybe there was a mistake in the timing and this tour doesn't actually end up, or there's, things happen. It can, it can make a large commitment like that of a trip to Europe horrific very quickly.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and like one of the there is a bit of a parallel. I'm not saying that you're little Lord Fauntleroy. I'm not saying that at all. So don't get it twisted. But all the little Lord Fauntleroys that came out of England around that time, and by the way, still do to some degree as little lords. They're ill-educated as to how the world turns. They know how the silver platter works, though, the spoon, and so they're ill-equipped for the larger world around them. They're certainly ill-equipped to lead men because they can't even lead themselves. They've never been taught. They've never made the sacrifices to learn what leadership means, to be led or to lead. And so little Lord Fauntleroy all of a sudden has his European campaign handed to him on his little silver platter. And he's told, you're going to lead the men. But Dad, I've never even led myself. But you're little Lord Fauntleroy, and it is your royal decree to lead those men into battle. Okay, Dad, I'll do my best. That dude doesn't have a shred of common sense. He's literally having his hand held all the way to the European campaign. And then everyone looks at him and says, now it's time to make decisions. He's never made decisions for himself ever in his life. And now he's making decisions for others. And, chance, or sorry, not chance, luck. Luck doesn't always play out as lucky. And so the difference being that in those moments, that costs men's lives. But to bring it back to you, little Lord Chance, who has got his one shot at greatness, if you lead well, freaking fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't, holy moly, how do you come back from that? Because it was your only one chance.
Yeah.
And so these sub-campaigns are where you lead your men and demonstrate that you're competent and capable, and then they'll follow you into the gates of hell, called the European campaign, or as it's colloquially known, the European vacation with Chance.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Storm says a European family vacation worked out for Chevy Chase, despite being an idiot, though. So, again.
Well, hang on a sec. Did it work out, though? I mean, at first glance, it worked out, but let's call it what it is. Chevy Chase is now universally recognized as a moron.
That's an idiot, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I like what you're saying, though, because it's true. If things are going to go wrong regardless. And while you were talking, I was going to, the image in my head was like, let's say I take a quick trip to Vancouver or California, something like that, right? And I have this whole plan where we got to catch a flight to here, to there, to do all these things. We're going to arrive in California. We're going to get on a little, I don't know, whatever, tour or something. If those timings are missed, big deal. It's not a big issue, right? Because it's a smaller campaign. It's not like
it's not as much of a factor.
Exactly. Versus if I were to say, hey, I want to go on a river cruise through Northern Europe. well, I got to manage to make timings on multiple things in a row just to get on it, and then have everything work out well from there. So there's
Well, look, there's complexity that you've never
yeah.
considered
Oh
before.
yeah.
So there's complexity for the trip to Cali, but
Yep.
there's additional complexity to Europe, and here's why. I know that you understand these things at the moment that I say them. It's just that people don't take them into consideration because they've never lived the life.
Yep.
They think they know, but they don't actually know, because until you do it, you don't know. And
Mhm.
so you've got little kids. You put the kids on the plane. You're on the plane now. They're excited. It's their first big plane trip. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. You get to, let's say you land in Paris as the example. Well, now you've been on a plane for a boatload of hours, and you know what your boys have been doing? They've watched movies the whole time. Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3. They've eaten
Yep.
all the pretzels. They've drank all the apple juice. You land in Paris with two morons
Yep.
who can barely stand up, can barely keep their eyes open, can barely focus on you. And guess what happens?
They
As
go.
you're dragging them down the aisle to go to the next connecting flight or whatever, one of the boys gets interested in Toy Story 4
Yeah.
in the store and just
Mhm.
stands there drooling on himself, not knowing where he is. Now you're spending half a day looking for your kid and missing your flight and wondering how the Blue Danube tour would have been. And that's just the way
Exactly.
it is, man.
Yep.
Like, it's the complexities, the tiny little non-considered life outcomes of what actually happens in the world when little kids do that, versus in your mind, you're on the Blue Danube tour with there's a little bit of classical music going in the background and the birds are chirping, but that's not
Yep.
how it works.
No, it's never worked that way before. I know when Amber and I went to Turks and Caicos, Arden was 1.5. And on the way back, there was a layover in Miami, and it took us 18 hours to get back. And let me tell you, a 1.5-year-old who has been in airports for the last 18 hours is not a happy 1.5-year-old. And
Dude,
that was
we've
an
been on
interesting.
flights that are like almost 24 hours
Oh
long,
yeah,
and
for
both
sure.
boys are in diapers. So
Yeah.
don't even, you know
Oh
what I'm
no,
saying?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, it's funny because when you think about a trip, when you think about, oh, I can go here, I can do these things, it's all great. And it's also very similar in terms of the military commander doing these things, is that they're thinking of themselves, right? If, I want to go on that river cruise trip or that river cruise because it would be amazing. I want to go see Juno Beach. I don't know if my boys would have any interest in that, right? So the concept of not only trying to share the experience with other people, but understanding that it's part of you is still being a little bit selfish, right? Because you want to be there, you want to do the stuff, you want to do these things, you want to see these stuff on a vacation. It's very important to understand that it's not just about you,
Well,
and
actually,
that
it's not at all. It isn't.
not at all.
You're actually just the luggage carrier
Yeah.
most of the time. And by the way, even further to that, your job is to demonstrate how to do a job well,
Hmm.
not to enjoy your job. Chance Burles.
That's exactly what I was getting at. The concept of leadership in and of itself, right? It's not about you. It's all on you, but it's not about you. And that way, uh, you have to be able to make those decisions quickly, effectively, and then be able to learn from those decisions continuously
Oh
as
yeah,
you
and
roll in.
realize that you're being watched all the time.
Yeah.
Those little knuckleheads, and you're botching it, man. And so, like, if you're botching it, you best get your act together and figure out how you're explaining. So here's how Dad botched. Here's why we're in Paris right now, boys, instead of being on the Blue Danube cruise.
Yes. It would be. I gotta say, this is as you were saying earlier. This is where the leadership comes in, right? When those things do happen, how do you handle it? How do you manage it? What is it you then do
Well, you
in
don't
those
know.
moments? And I don't know.
You
That's
don't
what I'm
know.
saying.
I mean, you used to know, maybe like 15 years ago when you're in the army or whatever, you had some minor leadership roles, but you've probably never been under mega pressure as a leader within your family in a foreign country before.
Nope.
Probably not.
Nope.
It's different.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be learning those lessons in your big grand European campaign because you'll blow it. So you need to go blow it in some sub campaigns,
Mm,
bounce down to not somewhere uncool like some Caribbean country or whatever where it's all follow the yellow umbrella. You got to go into a location where it's not all you can eat take care of yourself cruises where
for
you just
sure.
show up and mouth breathe and everything's done for you. You got to go out there and you got to adventure, man. Not adventure
Show
hard because
you.
it'll be your boy's first big adventure, but you gotta adventure hard enough that you're gonna botch it so that you can learn the lessons and then you can
Mm.
demonstrate to your boys how to do it better. And a cruise ain't going to do that.
No.
Going
No,
down to
no.
Disneyland ain't going to do
No.
that. It's got to be not hard traveling, but it's got to be hard enough that you know things are going to go a little sideways.
Yeah. And the things that I wanna go see, the things that I wanna go do, there aren't many of them that are big follow the yellow umbrella type of things, right? I have no interest
Well,
in
give me
Disneyland.
give me your first one.
Um, well, I mean, in Europe, well, depends.
Nope,
In Europe,
Europe's
somewhere
dead.
else. Okay, so
First sub.
first
You
what?
may never
Sorry.
get to Europe, buddy. I mean,
No, no, I get that, but sorry, I didn't
yeah.
hear what the last thing you just said
Yeah,
was.
sub. Give me your sub. Like you've got a sub campaign.
A sub campaign. Well, what I would really like to go see is the what's it called? Um, it's in Washington D.C. It's the where all the museums are.
Like the
Um,
Smithsonian and such.
yeah, 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 yeah. Where it's got all
Mm.
the different ones along the way.
Yeah, it's
Um,
nice. It's worth seeing for sure. That's a good trip.
yeah, and I think that would
But it's
be
easy
doable.
traveling.
It is for
I
to
mean,
a degree.
it
Depends on how you travel.
to a degree. Are you kidding me? It's about some of the easiest traveling you can do. I mean, name easier traveling, like walking across the street and ding donging your neighbor's door and saying hi. That's the only way it gets easier. I
Well,
mean,
what would you?
Washington is some of the easiest traveling ever.
Where would you recommend then? What would you say
Well,
is
that's
a
well, that's what I'm
minor?
saying. I mean, like, okay, let's get right to it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Washington is a point 1 of
Oh,
hardness.
okay.
So you need to do something that's going to demonstrate a little bit of sideways. Now I know Chance Bros wants to go see the Smithsonian, but we've already established it ain't about you. It's about your
Yeah,
children.
for sure.
So you got to take them somewhere where there's a little bit of hard traveling for them and for you, for your wife, like hard traveling. Not like where you're jumping straight into an ambush. I'm not saying you got to go swim the Amazon jungle and hope you don't get eaten by piranhas. I'm not saying that. You've got to scale it up. But Washington isn't even a blip on the radar. You need something that's a little bit more arduous, but not too arduous. And that's for you to decide. Like, if your family gets uncomfortable in shopping malls, then okay, maybe Washington is it. But if you can handle shopping malls, then go somewhere else that is a little bit harder than shopping malls, you know?
Mm. Well, I mean, so the U.S. isn't much of of an issue for me. I like the wait 1 second. Joss has got Switzerland is a great place, but expensive. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
you can't
unfortunately the
afford
issue. Yeah,
Switzerland.
Crack de Chevier in Syria. That is a travel goal. That would be cool. I 100%. Again, that's
Definitely not your
some
first trip with the family.
the similar an issue to going to Europe at some point. Um, but honestly, we'll see. I don't know. I haven't really put that much depth into a major vacation for us in the last little while because other things have taken
Well,
priority
budget,
with
man.
my
I mean,
girls.
like, so it goes down into so fantasy land, you know? One day we're going to go
Basically.
to Europe.
Mhm.
No, you ain't. Most people ain't
Yeah,
because it's too expensive. So it's nice to have dreams.
sure.
Sure. Dream on. But that ain't reality. So, as I have said several times, identify something that is attainable, that you know you can achieve. Now, it's good to dream, but a $5,000 vacation is certainly more achievable than a $20,000 vacation. And here's the thing. So this is not about Chance Burrows right now. This is about the standard issue family across Canada, will say.
Mhm.
If anyone has got an idea that they want to go to a European vacation, and let's say it's $15,000 for your family to go there for a month. Well, the average Canadian family, if they've assigned that as the goal, right about the time that they're $3,000 or $4,000 savings into their European vacation fund, that gets nuked or wiped out by the storm door that the dog ran through.
Yep.
Ruined the screen. The dog ran right through the storm screen. We've got a big hole in our screen. Where's the money come from? European vacation.
Yep.
That's just the way it is, man. I mean, so the sub campaigns, the achievable campaigns of about maybe 4 or 5K, that's where I think is a good place to start.
Yeah, that's going to be even more challenging now with the price of everything going up, inflation, all that stuff. But we'll see. We'll see what happens the next couple of years, because who knows?
Well, I think
Anything
I
can
know.
happen.
I know. I've just done the math. I mean, do the math.
Yeah.
2 years,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no way you're there in 2 years.
No. And it right now, actually, there's probably no way, because I got a lot of work to do on this house.
If you're there in even 10 years, I'll be surprised, because you've got your house, you've got your kids, like you got to get them to university, you got to replace a car, you got to replace the fence, you got to replace the screen door.
Mhm.
We know all of these things have to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so, by the way, if you take the average Canadian family and look at their saving rate per year, it ain't happening within 10 years.
Yeah.
Unless
No.
you don't want to pay down your house. Let's pretend you just want to save for a vacation and you want to take a reverse mortgage on your house to take that vacation. There's lots of ways to skin a cat.
There
But
is.
the average family in Canada just ain't scrabbling together 20K to randomly go off on a vacation. These are like almost once in a lifetime things that sometimes will take a decade or more to save for. And so if that's your deal, if you've saved for a decade to hope that it's all going to work out, this one big grand mission called the Charge of the Light Brigade is where you impress upon your family how rad
This
you
is
are.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Congratulations. Here comes the cannon fire.
Yeah, you're already failed to begin with, to even get started. The fun part about this is that I like the idea of smaller campaigns and using concepts of taking small corrections, of doing things you can have a grand goal, but make small decisions along the way in order to get to that grand goal, versus just looking at that one decision, like, we're going to go to Europe, versus, hey, we should go to New Brunswick, or we should go to Ontario. We should go see friends who we haven't seen for a while, and do those little trips, getting kids used to actually moving and
That's right, man.
dealing with the rigors of travel.
Well, it is rigorous.
Yeah, it is.
There's a calibration process. And if you think driving around your little town is hard, wait until you drive across the country with them. There's a process.
Yeah, I already did that one.
And our process was not like, hey, kids, time to disappear into the digital land. Here's your iPads. Forget about that. There's none of that anywhere. I've heard people say, well, for a drive that's anything longer than an hour, we let the kids disappear into their iPads. They can disappear into a book.
Yep.
There's 20 books in the back seat right now. Grab a book, start reading. And if you're tired of reading, look out the window. And if you're tired of looking out the window, talk to each other. And if you're tired of talking to each other, talk to me. And if you're tired of me, then get back to your book, because you ain't getting a computer, you little freak. You're not going to go Nintendo out. You're going to exist in the world is what's going to happen. And so not a lot of people run their program like that. So what happens is they're going to drive halfway across Canada. The kids get thrown in the back. They get put on the iPad. The kids, by the time they get to the location, they don't even realize that they're in a different town.
Yep.
And so they look out the window and say, oh, we're here. And now they're super crusty because they've been nerding out for all of that time, eating candy in the back seat. They get out, they turn into spazzes as they run around the parking lot in your aunt's front yard or whatever the case is. Presto changeo. Welcome to hell, man. Because you're running the program entirely wrong. And it's only a short trip. So the short trips across Canada are the trips where you learn how to do it really well or really poorly, but you got to pay attention.
Not only pay attention, but you have to pre-plan for those eventualities. So you have to be able to pre-think the trip, recognize some of the issues, discuss it with somebody else like yourself, or perhaps your spouse or something like that. See what they come up with, put all those things together as if they're all going to happen in sequentially and make a plan for them all.
Oh, and
Because
by the
then,
way, you've actually got to brief the troops.
and then exactly tell the kids that it's going to happen
Guess
and make
what,
sure.
kids? Your idea of this vacation ain't that. This is how it's going to work out. Get with the program.
Yeah, it's
You don't want a little mini revolt on day 2 when the kids realize that they're not going to eat infinite amounts of candy and turn into morons by iPadding out. You don't want that revolt on day 2.
yeah,
You want the complaining to occur about a month before you go on vacation.
yeah.
Get it out of your system, boys, because
I like that.
you ain't running the program, you know?
Yeah, it's when I when I got out of the army, I decided that it would be a great idea to fly my wife and my infant son, my 5-month-old son, to Montreal. And then I left Ontario. I picked them up in Montreal, and then we drove home over the span of 5 days with a 5-month-old baby. And that was a interesting trip, to say the
That was
least.
challenging, man. Done it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it was bad. And you know what? To my wife's credit, she did not kill me first off, and we are still married. So there's something there, because it was a hard trip. That was 7 hours in the car with a 5-month-old every day for 5 days, and it was that was a long drive. Let me tell you.
It's long. Done it. I know it sucks, but guess what? That's travel, man. Everyone
Yeah,
gets their little Hallmark card moment up in their head where they somehow equate travel to sitting in front of a cheery fireplace with Christmas stockings hung on the fireplace, and somehow in their mind they're like chewing on a candy cane or something. That ain't
yeah,
travel.
no,
Travel's hard work. And by the time you get to your destination, if you settle into whatever your Airbnb or your tent or whatever you're doing, by the time you settle in, that's actually called the start of the vacation.
yeah, and it begins.
You work like a dog to get to the start of your vacation. And once you're at the start of your vacation, what people usually do is turn it into work where
Yeah.
where they want to see all the museums. You got to find your right balance. You got to find the right velocity in your vacation to not need a vacation after your vacation. And most people get that wrong because they haven't vacated enough. It's Chance Burles. They get it in their head. They've got that dream of, I'm going to go see Europe with my family. It's going to be rad. I'm going to do that next week. No, you're not. No, it won't
No,
be. And
no,
you don't know anything about travel yet, because travel is hard work,
it
especially
is.
with kids. And so go do those subroutines. This is not for you, Chance. Go do those subroutines. Anyone who's listening, get the little vacations out of your system before you understand what a big vacation looks like. Save yourself some money.
Yeah.
Don't pull the trigger on the big grand tickets to Europe. Pull some little tickets on a trip to, I don't know, like Guatemala, man, or maybe not Guatemala for your family. Somewhere nicer, somewhere easier, but not Cancun.
No, I don't want
You
to go
know what I
there.
mean?
No, no. I think the last time we went to, last time my wife and I went to Mexico, we got back and I was like, I'm never going back down there again. At least the resort stuff, the resort towns, and the things that are just like it's not enjoyable. It's not
No, it
fun. You
isn't.
get
Not for
no
me.
experience. There's no experience there, right? Like it
It's
just
devoid of
yeah,
culture and history, in my opinion.
yeah.
And by the way, it's like buying a new truck nowadays. Of course I've had my eye on trucks to maybe do a adventure vehicle
Hmm.
or a truck camper, a tow a trailer or whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of, once again, it's the repeated cycle of, I've done my research. I'm thoroughly disappointed with the market, because what you're doing, you walk onto the car lot and look at what you're looking at, and already you're getting right with the compromises that you're purchasing brand new.
Hmm.
Excellent. I get to spend this much and I'm literally buying the problem that I already know it has. Why would I do that? I don't want that. And
Because
that's
it's
why,
shiny and new.
yeah, that's right. Mexico's shiny, but you won't catch me in Mexico going down there to lay in the dirt, spend all that money for a devoid location,
Yep.
which is basically made up of a whole bunch of other North American tourists who
Yep.
also don't care about culture and history,
Yep.
just want to go lay in the dirt and drink. And that ain't
Yep.
me. So you got to know who you are to go vacate. You got to identify the right vacate.
Hmm.
You got to start small, and you got to figure out all of the mistakes that you're going to make. The snake in your backpack, you lost your passport, whatever. You didn't bring your favorite lucky flip flops, and now your vacation's ruined. Whatever. You got to go make all of those mistakes in the little
Yeah.
sub campaigns before you blast out a big campaign.
I think that's a absolutely great point too. Is that those are the times you learn those lessons, as you said earlier in the the smaller campaigns. When you have what that's why officers, when they're really young, get paired with a warrant officer who has the experience, right?
It's
So
true.
that when you do those small campaigns, you have not only just this one inexperienced person who knows nothing, you also have an experienced person there who's saying, maybe the frontal assault's not a great choice. We only have 20
And
men.
the
Like,
officers that always do well is the ones who listen well.
yeah.
Pay attention to the details. Take the advice. Use the experience.
Hmm.
Where it all goes wrong is when someone shows up with their 4-year degree in French philosophy as an officer, and now they think they know how it's all run. And that's vacations, man.
Yeah.
Someone who bumbles out of university not knowing a freaking thing except French philosopher is spelt with a capital F.
Hmm.
You don't understand the world. Don't waste your money trying to figure out the world. Figure yourself out before you start figuring out the world if all you know is French philosophy.
Couldn't agree more. Jasper says, I love the vacation I took in Jasper. Jasper is gorgeous.
Jasper's
100%.
nice. If I would
Uh,
have known that that was the deal, I would have hooked you up with my buddy Andrew Bovard in
oh,
Jasper.
yeah. Yeah. I'm actually, we've been wanting to go to Jasper for a little while. We usually go at least once a year to go just drive out to Jasper because it's,
Mm,
a few hours down the road. So we do that pretty regularly. But the one that I haven't done in a while, we did Kananaskis a couple years ago. That was a lot of
mm.
fun, which is always a great place. Um,
You know what's
K8 says,
funny? I'm
oh,
thinking
yeah.
like you're talking about Kananaskis like it's Europe. Like I'd when we go to Kananaskis 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Like if this is how my brain works. I want to go for a decent ride today. I'm going to drive out to Kananaskis, way out in the middle of nowhere, park the vehicle and go ride my bike in the middle of nowhere, jump back in my car, go back to Calgary and think, I wonder what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go out to Kananaskis.
That's Calgary, though. That's
Well,
Calgary.
yeah,
It's like an hour away.
It is an hour away, but how far away is it from Edmonton?
4 hours.
You make that sound like a European vacation.
Oh, no. It's not a European vacation by any
So
means.
you could be there every day. Yeah, you
I
could.
don't
Well, you drive
technically,
that far to take the kids to school, apparently.
physically, yes. No, I
So
didn't say I drive that far. I just drive that
my
long.
point is this, and I think you'll understand.
Yep.
People talk about, I'm gonna go to Europe. It's gonna be so rad, dude. How about you go to Kananaskis more than once? You
Mm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I do. 100%. The the only real issue in my realm right now is the gas because that's expensive. But
Well,
the
if you can't
other,
afford gas, you can't afford Europe.
that's for sure. And I definitely can't afford Europe right now.
No, not too many can.
Carl says you could join an impromptu fire crew. Nothing says family bonding like fighting fire together. All serious though, we need rain. Yeah, we do. There's some major grass fires just south of town right now, and it's yeah. There's been a few evacuations and some notices going on right now. So we are under a fire ban, and there's some bad stuff happening. Maybe I could
Well,
go out
you know
there,
what?
go fight some fires. That'd be a good.
It's
What?
not a good job. I've done it. When I was in high school, I
Yeah.
did 2 times 3 week stints fighting fires up in northern Alberta in high school.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
so one of the dirtiest jobs I've ever done,
100%.
one of the most thankless jobs I've ever done, other than the military. And so it's a hard job.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to go earn their pay, throw on a set of orange coveralls and go start digging trenches and
Yeah.
fighting fires. That's no easy gig, especially up northern Alberta where I was. Because guess what? It's not just fires; it's also bugs,
Hmm.
etc. And so fighting fires is hard work. But you know what's even harder than fighting fires is accepting the fact that fires don't magically appear. It's actually called our entire planet right now is on fire. So there's that.
There is that. That's another part of it. The challenge, really, I think, especially firefighting, and I don't think people realize this, is that rarely when you're out fighting forest fire or fighting grass fire, stuff like that, it's not nice out. Like it's friggin' hot,
Oh
and you're
yeah.
digging trenches, and
Oh
you're in a
yeah.
full coverall, and you're wearing gear, and the fire's coming. So like,
Dude, I didn't even wear underwear.
yeah,
It
exactly.
was too hot to wear underwear.
Just straight out,
I
just
just
straight overalls.
straight up full commando
Yeah,
with a set of orange coveralls in grade 12
yeah,
in the filthiest job I'd ever done in my
yeah.
life.
Just
Yeah, it's hot.
dirt and smoke and heat, and it
Yeah, no
is not
shower for
fun.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
I smelled dripe, but at least it wasn't my
so
underwear that was dirty.
yeah. But then you get a pose for those really wicked photos with like holding the chainsaw blade over your shoulder, just like with all the smoke behind you.
Nope,
That's good
none of those.
to Daniel says Yukon. Oh, there you go. Look, so we got Carl says agreed. Yukon is awesome.
Depending on the time of year.
Winter Storm
Again,
Yukon is awesome.
it is awesome depending on the time of year.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, if you time it wrong, your kids will be scarred for the rest of their lives by mosquitoes. So
Yeah.
and black flies.
And black
Big
flies.
helicopter-sized
yeah.
black flies.
Those are bad. Nothing like friggin' horsefly bites are.
Oh yeah.
I've been hit so many times. Winter Storm says come to Vancouver Island. You know, I was there last year for Pegasus Jump. I'm hoping to come back out soon. We will see. This year is still a little up in the air, but
Well, it's hard to go out to Vancouver Island when you got to go to Europe.
right.
I mean, this summer
Man.
you'll be. How many
I'll be flying
baguettes
to
do you
Europe
think
already.
you'll eat in Paris this summer?
Oh, at least a dozen. At least a dozen. Winter Storm says, I don't think I have ever spelled philosopher with a capital F. So, hey, you're a step up than some other people.
Well done.
Dave Gibson says, staying within your budget and spending legit one-on-one time with your family is the ticket for a good vacay. That is both productive and repeatable. 100%.
That's right. And you know, Dave raises a good point. So I'll speak for myself and my family. There's a certain point in any vacation, we've been on lots, that I reach a point of spending fatigue. I could be a gajillionaire. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much money I have in the bank. At a certain point of vacation, I just get tired of spending. I get tired of all of it. I just want to I just want to like go back to a normal life where I'm frugal. But it's hard to be frugal on vacation. It's a constant balancing act of wanting to experience a thing that you may never get to experience, except for that one day that you're in that one location, in that one European vacation. I mean, you got to figure out, do I do it or not? And at a certain point, 2-3 weeks into it, I'm tired of spending money, man. So, you know, I guess you got to understand who you are as a person, whether you were raised with a bottomless check and you're just used to spending. I wasn't raised used to spending, so I don't like spending money forever in a day. There's a certain point of fatigue for me.
Yeah, it's a challenge because you want to be able to provide, right? But at the same time, it really sucks to just keep shelling all like it's just watching your money disappear. It's not a pleasant place to be. And it's funny because my wife and I, we do these interesting. She's very different than I am. She's one of those. I want to go here. I want to see this. I want to go here. I want to see this. I want to do these things. That's a vacation for her, is to see things, to experience stuff. Whereas for me, a vacation is to like, we're going to chill. Like I want to go to the mountains and I want to sit there and I want to stare at the mountains and watch the clouds go by. Right? Like that's a vacation. So we're very different, and we really continually work to be find a nice medium so that everybody is getting what they want out of it, right? So we do sit around, hang out by the fire, talk to each other, and we also go out and do stuff. We go walk a trail, we go do these things. So that's another part of it, is that it's not about you, as we said earlier, but it's also you got to figure out how you work together as a team. Otherwise,
oh yeah, that's going to take a long time. I'm still trying to figure it out, and I can't even count how many times we've been on vacations as a family. And like using Europe as an example, generally speaking, throughout that entire month, it's not that we were busy, but we accomplished a lot as a family over there
Mm,
for sure. We saw a lot, did a lot. But for me, it's always finding the right balance of what a lot means to me. And so, we went to the Louvre and did that whole Louvre thing.
mhm.
And by the end of that day, I was cooked, man. There was there was 4 million people standing around the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
There was 12 million people standing around the statue of David,
yeah,
and so on and so forth. Like, it was it's the busiest museum I've ever been in. Now, maybe it was because of the day or blah, 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 whatever, but I've never been in a busier museum. In
yeah.
fact, it was atrociously busy. And so by the end of that, I was like, man, I am done. And so at a certain point in a vacation, it's usually along these lines. I'm going to go get a coffee.
Mhm.
Uh, do you want us to come? No, I'm just going to go find a coffee. I'm just
Yeah.
going to do a little wander around. I'm just going to dot, dot, dot.
Go
When I
for a
say
walk,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna, it means I just want to be left alone for a sec. I just
Mhm,
want to sit on a rickety stool at a rickety table on a cobblestone street and watch people walk by for a little while and
mhm.
contemplate the world in silence. And so we all, I think, need to find the right balance for ourselves in our vacations, but you can't know the balance until you've got a few vacations under your belt so that you know what the team needs, right?
100%, and how to communicate that to each other,
Mhm.
because that's a big one, because a lot of times we forget to communicate to each other, and this has happened to me before with Amber, was the fact that we did do something like that. We went to a big, I think it was Granville Island out in
Oh,
Vancouver,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
right? And it was a really busy day. There were people everywhere, and we were walking into
More
those
people than
small little shops.
seagulls? That's weird.
More, yeah, it was a lot. It was pretty even though. There were a lot of seagulls too,
Yeah,
but
there are.
the challenge was that as we kept going through all these little shops and all these little windy little streets and stuff, that everything got really tight, and I was surrounded by people really tightly. I was fried pretty fast, and I did not at the time know how to actually communicate that I was
Mm.
getting fried. And like, at one point I just looked at her. I'm like, I gotta leave, and I out the door. And so obviously that did not make her very happy that I
No, I
just
can imagine.
ditched her in the middle of that, right, with the kids. But because I had gone way too far without communicating it, without actually engaging her, without saying, hey, this is starting to make me uncomfortable. Maybe we should go find another shop. I was trying to do the thing of just like, oh no, we'll be out of here soon. And, hoping that it's all just going to work out.
No.
It did not. It did not work well. So that's a big part of it, is learning not only what the issues are going to be, but also learning how to communicate those issues in the moment. Like you said, I'm just gonna. If you got a set of words that clarify very clearly, or not just clarify clearly, that make it very clear what your intention is, which is, I need silence
Me
and
time. Yeah.
alone time, right?
That's my pattern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all know what's going on now. I'm just gonna go for a coffee.
Hmm. And then, we'll link up at this point in time at this place soon. Whatever you need to do. I think it's
And you know
very, very important.
what's the bummer part is about Granville Island? It's kind of a funky place. It's a cool
Yeah,
place,
it's
and
neat.
that's where I'm looking at the mug up here on my bookshelf. It's my skull mug. That's where my
Oh,
boys
neat.
bought my skull mug for me.
Yep.
They just sauntering around saw it and said that'd be perfect for Dad. That was a surprise gift, and so that never would have happened unless we were in a place that could offer those kind of random moments
Yep.
for my boys. And so that's the great thing about vacations is it's a different world. It's a new world. It's exciting opportunities or possibilities that our kids don't get to see at home. And
Hmm.
so that's what it kind of should be about is new experiences for them and figuring out how to that sweet spot for the entire family to have a good time. Well, your boys aren't old enough yet to say, okay, it is now 1200 hours. We will meet back here in the food court at 1400 hours. Feed yourself.
Yep.
And so they're just not old enough to do that yet. But you're old enough to know that when you start feeling like you've got to get out of there, that you get to use your big boy words.
Yep.
And so the only reason that you did what you did is because you've been getting away with it.
Yeah.
You just thought that, well, whenever Chance Burles feels like he's had enough, he just says, like a magic incantation, I'm out of here. Okay, Gandalf. No, you ain't.
I love that. Yeah, and it's true. I mean, I've learned quite a bit since then. This was quite a number of years ago, but the interesting part of it is that this applies to basically everything, right? We've been talking about vacations and how to utilize things, and sacrifices and all that stuff, but it applies to really any major choice, any real major decision. If you want to buy a car, that is, you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a fancy car, the one with all the problems that you already know about, that is a large financial sacrifice. But because it's a large financial sacrifice, you have to be able to play into it. How is that going to apply to the rest of the family? How is that going to, not just the cost, but are people going to fit in it? Are people going to be able to drive it? Is it too big for my wife? Like, my wife doesn't like driving my truck because it's too big. Is she going to drive my truck very often? Not really. That doesn't mean she can't. But if I buy a new truck, is it bigger than the one I have? Does that mean
if
it's
it is, you
completely
better buy a
unusable?
step ladder and get used to the fact that you're sleeping in the doghouse.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, like, all of these things apply to everything, in that if you're going to sacrifice something, if you're going to work towards a goal of some sort, you have to not only recognize the sacrifice, but you also have to recognize the sacrifices others are making in order for that to happen. And in depth of that, you have to be able to communicate to each other how that's going to affect you. You have to be able to think of all the not repercussions, but all of the different issues that are going to arise because of it, and then plan for them. And when they do go wrong, lead your way through them rather than let them lead you. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad, but all of those lessons won't be learned if you are saving for the grand European vacation
That's right.
that'll never happen.
100%. There's a great comment here from Dave that says, your family should not care where and how much, but more the quality time together that builds the bonds. Yeah, your family should not care.
No, wrong.
No, wrong. What do you think?
Sorry, Dave. I'm going to totally disagree. Your family should care where and how much because they're actually part of the team. And by the way, our boys do need to know how much these things cost because eventually they'll have to understand financial responsibility and the cost of things. They have to understand that, like Chance Burrows, European vacations don't grow on trees. Sacrifices have to be made. And this is the costs of the sacrifice in order for us to stand here in Paris right now. They do need to know. They're part of the process, and they're actually in the learning mode when you're explaining these things.
That is a great point, because how would anybody know how much a vacation costs? I think this is actually probably one of the issues with a lot of generations, is the fact that they don't know how much these things cost. And so when they first think, hey, I want to go on vacation, when they're like 20 or 25 or 20, 29, and they have their own job and their own place, and they're like, yeah, I want to go on vacation to Vancouver. And they put it all on their credit card, right, without thought. And then they have to pay that down later on, versus pre-planning it and understanding how much it costs and what they want to do and where they want to go, and all these other things that we've mentioned, in order to actually appreciate the trip rather than just go on a trip.
Yeah, there's cost to everything. We'll call it sacrifice.
Yeah.
But you'll never understand sacrifice until you've made the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And my children don't need to make the amount of sacrifices that I've made in my life to understand what sacrifice means. But it's my job to explain to them sacrifice so that they don't have to taste the bitter, metallic taste of sacrifice. My job is also to inoculate them against adversity by exposing them to sacrifice, but on a palatable velocity rather than spoon feeding them until they're 18 and throwing them out into the world and saying good luck. So, my job as a dad, I believe, or as a parent, is to introduce my children to adversity, explain it to them, explain cost to them, explain sacrifice to them, explain vacations to them, so they understand the costs of life.
And allow them to experience it in a way that's not scarring.
Correct.
Yeah. Because I was actually thinking about this the other day too, but we're almost out of time, so I'm not going to get too deep into this. But the concept of, you don't want your kids to experience the pain that you experience, but you want them to be able to learn lessons from the experience itself. And so you have to give them a little bit of that pain not give them, but have them experience a little bit of that pain without it being a full blown experience that you had that was traumatic, perhaps, and then allow them to learn without having to go through that exact same steps, because who knows how they would interpret it.
That's right. But you got to know your kids.
Yep.
You got to understand humans. You got to understand the end state that you're seeking, and just those three things alone is rare indeed. So I don't even
Indeed,
want to
it
build it
is.
out anymore. So what's the point?
That'd be a whole nother show. We could dive
It
into
would
that
be.
all day long. Last comment here we got is, just remembered, a great place to go is Catamount Mines camping area. Yes, I've been out there. There is a horse trail for the old mines, and each campsite has a corral for horses. Oh, that sounds
Yeah, it
pretty
does.
amazing for me.
You know what it sounds like? A no change vacation. Yeah,
Yep.
you know that's. I'm good at horses.
Yeah.
I know things. I'll
Yeah.
take my family on a vacation that's perfect for me, that we're not going to learn anything.
Yes.
Chance
Perfect.
Burles, you win. You're going to look
I
like a
do
hero
win
and learn nothing,
100% and learn
and nor your
nothing.
kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go do the opposite of that Catamount Mines trip.
It's definitely going to be an interesting, this next trip we go on. I don't know when it's going to happen because we have a lot of work to do on the house, but whatever it is, we're going to make it a learning environment. Let's do that. That's what I'll turn it into. Okay, I actually got one more last one here. It says, Dave
I
Gibson says,
figured Dave would come in. I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
if we were going to run out of time. I
Yeah.
know he probably wants to defend his earlier.
What I mean is that not all families can take the best of the best trips. Being satisfied, not comparing to what other families can pull off, and being happy and satisfied together.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
contextualizing against other people who appear to be having
Yes.
a better vacation.
Yes, and it's with enough money, you can look like you're having a great time any day
You
of the
sure
week.
can.
Yeah,
You sure
so that's
can.
part of it. Any final thoughts on anything we've gone over today? I mean, we've crossed a gambit of things, but
We did.
sacrifice
We
in
did.
general.
We did. I think the only thing I've got to say is a good conversation, by the way. And the guest, any word on the guest, or
Nothing. I haven't seen anything.
all right, just rejig it, I guess, in the future.
Yeah, we'll reschedule.
Sounds good. How are we doing for tomorrow? How's it looking? 1,200 hours?
Yep, 1,200 hours
Okay.
PST.
Guest or no guest?
1,300. We have a guest.
Okay, good.
Not going to tell you who it is because I know you don't like to know.
That's right.
But yeah, we have. I got us lined up for quite a while. We're pretty good. It's weird.
Okay,
last week
good.
I had a challenge getting anybody for last week for some reason. It just
Mhm.
didn't work. But this week we got a nice selection of guests, and we're going to learn a lot.
That's
of
good for
really
you,
cool
by the
things.
way. Not good for
Good for
me.
me.
It's good for you, and here's why. Because if it's you and I and no guest, I have a predilection. I feel better about staying in skirmish mode. It's just my thing. When it's just you and I do love a good skirmish. But when it's a guest, I kind of gotta be on my best behavior sometimes, you know?
You
Maybe
don't
not
have to.
always.
You don't have to. I mean, you could be, but you don't have to.
I do skirmish a touch with a guest. But looking at Rebecca yesterday, was it Rebecca Rouse?
Yes.
Yeah. Hard to skirmish with her because she's pretty legit, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you skirmish with that?
It was. I'm gonna get her, and I'm gonna see if I can get Brandy. I'm gonna see if I can get a couple other ladies along with Julie Kelly on another ladies panel coming up soon.
Fantastic.
And we'll have some heavy hitters coming in with some heat.
Dude, she's a heavy hitter.
Man.
I mean, I had no idea, of course, but now I have a sense of things.
Yeah. I was looking at some of her videos. I've been following her for a little while, but some of her lifts are just insane.
Dude, it's insane.
Yeah. So, like we said yesterday, if you're looking for a trainer, talk to her. She'll sort you out real fast.
If you're looking to feel like an underperforming midget like I feel now.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Anyway, we're in hour 4. Thanks for the conversation. It's been fun. And if I know I have learned a lot about sacrifice and not going on a European vacation in the next 2 weeks, which means that I've been able to build a better picture of what I am going to go on vacation with my boys and my wife, and that means I can grow in the future and possibly have a bigger vacation.
Wow.
Perhaps even to Europe
maybe even the moon.
Maybe to the moon.
Enjoy your trip to the moon, Chance Burles.
You know what? We
That-
might be able to get to the moon as vacation in our lifetime.
Sometimes they call it pie in the sky, but good luck with that.
Well, I think with
You know,
technology might be
Dude, start
possible.
saving now. It could happen.
Exactly, it could happen. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll continue this
I just hope
conversation.
that screen door repair doesn't stop you from getting to the moon.
Yeah, you know what? I might have to actually fix something else in my house because I got enough to fix right now. All right, everybody. As we learn, build, and grow, I hope you're doing the same. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Chimo.
Chimo.